Yeah.
Florida State is just 3 years removed from a 10-3 season and an Orange Bowl victory. But that all seems like a lifetime ago, as the Seminoles are just 18-20 since then and are now relying on Mike Norvell to come clean up the mess. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, the best kept secret in college football. Today, bringing you our 2020 Florida State Seminoles college football predictions. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos as we continue to progress not just through the ACC, but through every single Power 5 conference. Also, make sure to check out everything in the description below, where you can get exclusive content on our website, thegridironexpert.com, as well as follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So it is a brand new era of Florida State football down in Tallahassee. The Seminoles quickly got rid of the failure that was Willie Taggart after going just 9-12 in less than 2 seasons with the program. He was fired in the middle of this past 2019 season. They have now hired Mike Norvell, the brilliant offensive mind from Memphis, where he went 38-15 over 4 years with the program. And he has plenty of talent to work with in 2020. We'll start with the offense here. Norvell's an offensive mind. Last year at Memphis, his team averaged 40.4 points per game. He returned 7 starters offensively down in Tallahassee. The million-dollar question is, can they get better quarterback play? And can the offensive line improve after allowing 48 sacks in 2019? Those are the 2 keys. So will James Blackman get the nod? Or will it be the guy like Chubba Purdy, the incoming freshman, and very highly touted by everyone across the nation? They have plenty of people to support them, such as Texas A&M transfer Jashawn Corbin at running back, and then Tamorian Terry, who had over 1,100 receiving yards and 9 touchdowns in 2019. The talent is there for this offense to take a major step forward in Norvell's first season. Defensively, Florida State returns 10 starters from last year's squad that allowed 27.8 points per game. So they certainly need to improve that stat. If you can get it down to about 23 points per game allowed, that'd be a huge improvement. Their leading tackler, Hamza Nazar-Eldin, does return, along with the transfer cornerback Miko Dotson, who had 9 interceptions last year at Florida Atlantic. Was one of the best corners in the country last year. And keep in mind, they also have Marvin Wilson along the defensive line, which is now switching back to a 4-3 scheme. So Florida State, the talent is there. Maybe not to contend for the Atlantic. It's Clemson's to lose until proven otherwise. But certainly to get back to a winning record and to improve slowly but surely to finally start challenging Clemson in the years to come. The Norvell era kicks off with a game in Atlanta. A neutral site game against West Virginia. This is a very intriguing game because neither of these teams, are some of the elites in the country right now. Neither of these teams are as big as they once were. But it is intriguing because you have Mike Norvell going up against Neil Brown. 2 great offensive minds here. And Neil Brown at West Virginia going into his second season with the Mountaineers after going 5-7 in 2019. This game will come down to quarterback play. There are questions at quarterback for Florida State. There are a few questions at quarterback for West Virginia, whether they're going to go with Austin Kendall or Jarrett Doege. But the number that I circled was that West Virginia last year only averaged 73.3 rushing yards per game. That's not going to cut it against this Florida State defense that I genuinely believe will take a step forward. They can't win this game solely through the air. I think Florida State's offense surprises a lot of people in this game. West Virginia still has a few pieces to figure out offensively. Florida State opens up the Norvell era with a big win over a Power 5 opponent at a neutral site. People can finally get excited again. They're 2-0 because we give them a win over Samford before traveling to the Smurf turf up in Boise, Idaho, to take on the Boise State Broncos. Last year, Florida State blew it. Plain and simple. Had the game in Tallahassee, led by 18. Many thought, oh, maybe they're turning a corner with Willie Taggart because the Broncos are a good squad. They blew that 18-point lead and lost at home 36-31. And unfortunately for the Seminoles, I see it being a second straight loss to Bryan Harsin and the Broncos. They do fall here. Boise State's a team that, led by Hank Bachmeier at quarterback, will be very dangerous offensively, will certainly challenge Florida State's very experienced defense, but they also have a very strong back seven. Very strong back seven. So that linebacking core and that secondary is going to be very, very strong, and the strength for Boise State's defense here. So I think that's going to really challenge a passing attack that's still going to be trying to get their feet wet under Mike Norvell's system. And another key stat is that over the past 5 years, Boise State is 27-5 at home. They don't lose often on the blue turf, and I don't see them losing to the Seminoles this year. They're 2-1 going into their very early bye week at the end of September, and they come out of that bye week to take on North Carolina State, a team that the Seminoles defeated 31-13 last year. And this is a Wolfpack squad that went 4-8 in 2019, but will improve in 2020. They're going to have better quarterback play very soon from Devin Leary, a guy that I think they're going to go with, a guy I think will take a step forward. Their rushing game, led by Bam Knight, is going to be very underrated, so could kind of catch Florida State off guard a little bit here. But this NC State team only averaged 22.1 points per game last year. So while their offense should take a step forward, they're not going to take that much of a step forward from like maybe 22 to 29. Touchdown difference, I don't see it happening, especially not this early in the season. I think Florida State goes on the road and gets a win over NC State, especially coming off a week of rest. They are now 3-1. It sets up a big showdown against Clemson, a team that Florida State, and really every team, has not had much luck against over the past few years. They lost to Clemson really bad last year, 45-14. They lost by, I believe, 49 it was the year before that. They've lost the past two games by a combined score of 104-24. 104-24. They've been outscored by 80 points over the past 2 years by the Clemson Tigers, led by Dabo Swinney. So really, this game is not a matter of does Florida State win it or not. It's a matter of can Florida State lose by less than 28. That's what it looks like to me. Even though they get to host them in Tallahassee, Mike Norvell's squad is not quite there yet to take down the likes of Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Amari Rodgers, and a very talented defensive line led by a Brent Venables defense. It's just not going to happen. I don't know if anybody in the ACC can take down Florida State or take down Clemson. They take a loss here, their second of the year, to a Clemson team that many believe will make a return trip to the college football playoff. They then take on Wake Forest back at home. They're remaining at home following a Clemson loss. They have to be careful here not to be hung over. You see it a lot. Elite teams like Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, their opponents sometimes have a hangover the following week, especially if they do receive a major beatdown. This is a Wake Forest team that if Florida State is kind of hungover, if they are not at 100%, Wake Forest will take advantage of that, come into Tallahassee, and steal a win. They stole a win last year in Winston-Salem, winning 22-20, as Wake Forest hit 5 field goals. 5 field goals, guys, and they still won the game. And I think that really comes to show, sure, how great of a team Wake Forest was last year before all the injuries hit, but also how poor this Florida State offense was. You can expect Florida State to score more points than they did last year. You can expect Florida State to get a win over Wake Forest this year. At home, following the Clemson loss, Mike Norvell's squad at Memphis they rarely lost, period, but when they did, they never really had that hangover. They never had really lost consecutive games. It was very rare to see at Memphis, and I think you're going to see the exact same thing down at Florida State. They then go on the road to take on Louisville, a team led by Scott Satterfield that surprised everybody last year, going from 2-10 to 8-5, guys. That's unbelievable. That type of transition in 1 year was remarkable. And they have a chance to be even better this year as Louisville returns one of the best offenses within the ACC. Florida State was able to take down the Cardinals 35-24 last year. So they were able to shut down that very good Louisville offense. Thing is, they're going to be even better this year. They averaged 33 points per game last year, and with Mikhail Cunningham, Javion Hawkins, Tutu Atwell, Des Fitzpatrick, all those guys along the offense returning, they can be better than that. With this game being in Louisville, I don't like Florida State's chances, even though they have an experienced defense. I don't see many teams being able to shut down that electric of an offense. I think Louisville gets a little bit of revenge from that 11-point loss they suffered last year, and they take down Florida State at home. They then return home to take on Pittsburgh. This is going to be the true test for Florida State's offensive line. Outside of the Clemson game, and maybe Wake Forest, this Pittsburgh team is going to be the toughest test they have faced in terms of in the trenches, in terms of pass rush. Because the Panthers were one of the best defenses in the country last year when it came to sacks. They were first in the nation in sacks per game, nearly averaging 4 a game. And now they return 15 total starters from that 8-5 squad they had last year. Major key for Pittsburgh is not their defense, but their offense. Does Kenny Pickett take a step forward? Do we get the Kenny Pickett that we saw in the Quick Claim Bowl? Or do we get the Kenny Pickett that we saw throughout the rest of last season, right through for just 13 touchdowns to 9 interceptions? Regardless, it's in Tallahassee. I think Florida State has enough offensively. I think Mike Norvell can adapt offensively to get a win at home over the Panthers. They do just that. Huge for them. Now clinching their 5th win. 1 win away from bowl eligibility. Unfortunately, they're not able to clinch it against Miami. And I know. Florida State fans, you're going to be livid. I get it. We're not going to lose to Miami. You're ridiculous. Listen, you've lost 3 straight. Florida State has lost 3 straight to Miami. And last year they lost 27-10 at home. And that was a bad Miami team, guys. That was a Miami team that lost to Florida International, Duke, and Louisiana Tech. So Florida State now has to travel to the Hurricanes, which I get maybe isn't a legit home game, but a Hurricane squad that now brings in De'Aaron King at quarterback. So you got a dual threat quarterback, and you've got Gregory Rousseau along that defensive line that had 15.5 sacks last year. So this is going to be a huge, huge test for Florida State's offensive line. This is going to be a huge test for Florida State's defense, and I think in the end, defense gets the job done, but it's Miami's defense that does it. Manny Diaz, despite going 6-7 last year, had the 13th best defense in the country in 2019. Expected to be around the same in 2020. Miami gets the win at home, but Florida State does bounce back and clinch bowl eligibility with the win over Boston College, and we give them another win over Syracuse for their 7th win. The Boston College game, Jeff Hafley comes in. You've got a brand new head coach who has questions at quarterback and will have to mostly rely on David Bailey to carry the offense with the run game. Defensively could be a strength, but they only returned 7 starters, and the defense wasn't all that hot last year anyways. So Boston College is in for a rough ride, and it's in Tallahassee. Then Florida State goes to Syracuse to take on the Orange in the Carrier Dome. Last time there, they lost 30-7. But last year in Tallahassee, Florida State won 35-17. Neither of these two teams had a great offensive line last year. Actually, Tommy DeVito of Syracuse was the most sacked quarterback in the nation last year. Most sacked quarterback in the nation last year. So I think this is a kind of a game where Florida State flexes their muscle a little bit, flexes that extra size and speed because we know they have that slight advantage over Syracuse, and they go into the Carrier Dome and steal a win over an Orange team that's going to be borderline bowl eligible. Which sets up a season finale against Florida, the in-state rival. But again, they don't have to worry too much about this game because as great as it would be to get a win over the Gators, they've already clinched a 7-win season at the least. They're going bowling. And I think that's all they get. They do lose to the Gators here. They've lost the past 2 to Florida by a combined 50 points. Even though this game is in Tallahassee, this is a Florida team that could very well win the SEC East. This is a Florida team that could maybe slip into the college football playoff if all the pieces fall in their favor. But Kyle Trask is a great quarterback for them. You got Kyle Pitts, who's going to be one of the best tight ends in all of college football, and a defense, secondary especially, that will be very strong yet again with Todd Grantham and Dan Mullen. So they do lose to the Gators here, which means that the Seminoles do finish 7-5. Now, again, I think that's a fantastic season considering the circumstances. You have a brand new head coach who didn't have spring practice. You take over for Willie Taggart, who went 5-7 his first year. Florida State went 6-7 last year. Regardless of what happens in your bowl game, you've clinched a winning season. If anything, this should get you excited, because you've clinched a winning season. You've clinched 7 wins. You have a chance to hit 8 if you do win your bowl game. And this is just a start of things to come in Tallahassee. If Mike Norvell can do this in 2020 with everything that's been going on, then imagine what he can do by his 3rd or 4th year with the program. Florida State is slowly but surely on their way back. It begins here in 2020 with what I believe to be a very successful 7-5 season. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share these videos. And also check out everything down in the description below, where you can receive exclusive content on our website, thegridironexpert.com, and follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Once again, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.